So he uh, he will assist her in getting her plumbing fixed. So, all right, there we are, live on YouTube, and Susan Michelle and Karen Parente. Good to see you guys. This mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michelle. I am here in Western Massachusetts. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles, which we are all here to study, to learn, to embody the knowledge of. And I am super psyched that Karen Parente is here to talk with me today. How are you, Karen?
I'm doing very well, Susan. Very well. Can't complain today. It's a good day. I'm plugged into the God socket.
Which we were talking to about pre-call because I tend to say I'm plugged into the God socket. Would you mind sharing that story you told me again? Because that's so interesting to me
Yeah.
about.
I'm paraphrasing it. I didn't actually hear Ken say it, but McKaylee was telling me about it, and she said Ken said something to the effect of when you're listening to the Holy Spirit, it's like the plug is plugged into the electric socket. It just doesn't end. And if you're listening to the ego, it's like being battery operated, where the battery's eventually going to die. So I thought of you when she told me that because it's being plugged into the God socket, which like I heard that years ago, and I was like, who said that? I can't think who said that. And I don't think anybody at the time really put it together because I don't know how long have you been teaching on here?
Oh, golly, at least 10 years, I
Okay, so
believe.
maybe it was the people that were there at the meeting, or maybe they weren't even listening to me. Who knows what the reason was? But it was some years ago, and I just thought that is the coolest phrase. I can't think of where I heard it, but I heard it somewhere because we hear so many different things and so many different people, and it was you.
Yeah, and you're talking about Ken Wapnick, because I know not everyone knows Ken Wapnick, but he is a amazing teacher. I've listened to him so often. He's no longer with us in body form, but his teachings will live on forever. So, yeah, I think that when we are connected to peace, love, joy, and happiness, when we release our fear, we are allowing God's voice to speak through us. And that's what we all strive to do is to connect to the love and release the fear. Um, I think I will continue with my pattern. I will start off with the introduction of Surrender to Joy, because that kind of says what I strive to feel as often as possible. What I write in my introduction is my passion is God. God is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we're filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. So for me, it's all about connecting to the joy within each morning before I start my day. And I do that through A Course in Miracles lesson. I do that through meditation. But it's really important to me to live from the inside out as opposed to from the outside in. Because when we place our validation on the world, it's so easy. It's so easy to get disappointed. But when we get that sense of fulfillment from God, when we get that sense of fulfillment from source energy, then we are being guided on a clear path. That's what Course in Miracles is teaching us to do, to listen to the God within, go into the world to extend that love to our brother, so we're coming from a place of fullness where all we want to do is share that love, as opposed to coming from a place of lack. Right, Karen?
Absolutely beautiful. I love that. And yeah, so for me, it's exactly what you said, but I don't I don't meditate really much at all. So my meditation is probably different from yours. My meditation is just, I thought about it the other day, and what it is actually comes from A Course in Miracles and in the introduction, the workbook's first introduction, where he talks about bringing the quiet with you, bringing the quiet with you. So my meditation is basically just being present, and bringing the quiet with me wherever I go. That is my meditation. I don't feel like I need to actually, at this point right now, that's just me, to meditate and sit and meditate. There are times when I need to be quiet and I need to go away and just sit. Like if I get too excited or I get upset or I'm emotional, then I need that time. Really only when I'm upset, but usually I don't. Um, and I think Krishnamurti's kind of that way. He's like that way. He feels like meditation is, which I think is interesting. He doesn't think you need to sit in a lotus position or sit in a specific position or have, a certain time or a certain ritual, which there's nothing wrong with that at all, but I think there's so many different ways for so many different people. And I think different things work for different people. But what you said, living from the inside out, and for me, it's like recognizing, like you said, placing validation on the world it's never gonna make me happy. And thinking that something outside of me is going to make me happy, or something outside of me is going to make me feel better, or even make me sad, anything, because it's all dependent on me. And even with other people, like I'm having a situation right now with someone close to me, and they're going through something, and I'm not really sure what to do, and I feel like the Course says you need do nothing but get out of the way. And so I'm going within for my answers, because normally I would do something. I would feel like I had to go do something, feel like I had to maybe either go talk to that person, or for this situation, I'm thinking about maybe an intervention, because it's a drug situation with this person close to me that started using drugs again, and it's starting to get to be a problem. But it's not something I feel responsible for today. I have to go within and ask and be at peace before I can do anything. So that's what I like to do. And looking through that lens of peace, love, and joy, like you were saying, then I can come to a clear decision, because right now I'm not clear. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting for it to be told what to do, or do nothing, because sometimes people have to figure it out for themselves. And, this has been an ongoing situation with this particular person, a very close friend of mine. And yeah, I won't do anything until I come from that place of love and peace and joy that you were talking about. Because if I don't, I'm going to feel like I have to fix that person, or I'm going to say something that I might regret, And so that's what I'm learning to do. So living from the inside out for me is that, and that is everything. And I love your introduction. I love the surrender to joy. Everything else is our own miscreation. And our own miscreation are always our projections and all of our thoughts, because that's another thing that about the Course that I've been really paying close attention to lately is, and it's been helping me tremendously, that these are not your real thoughts. Thank you. Thank God. These are not your real thoughts. They are my own miscreations. Anything other than love is my own miscreation. So your introduction like hits every nail. It hits them all. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen. I know that's why I like to recite it. I really think that was downloaded uh, by my higher self. So it helps me to start my talks with it. Thank you. You said so much right there, which I love. I mean, formal meditation is definitely not necessary. It's not for everyone. I know someone who chooses not to meditate specifically because she told me, and she's big into Course in Miracles, she wants to feel that love all the time, not just during her meditation. So she feels like if she meditates, it will promote loving kindness during the meditation, but she might not be able to carry that with her throughout the day. And that's absolutely true. But for me, it works. I've been doing it off and on for my whole life. And for me, it works. So I do it. I think that being fully present in the moment is key. And that's what Course in Miracles teaches. That's what all clear gurus and spiritual masters teach. To be fully present in the moment is key. I was speaking to a uh, acquaintance at the gym yesterday, and she's just so lovely. She's a principal of a high school. And she was telling me after spin class that she's putting together a seminar on healthy communication. And she was talking to me about how important it is to listen because most people aren't fully present when someone else is talking. They're simply thinking about what they're going to say next. And for years, I've studied that concept because what I think we crave is we crave connection. We crave connection to the other person, but to connect to the other person truly, we need to come from a place of self-connection. So when we're connected to ourself, we're not constantly thinking about what we're going to say or what we're going to do next. We're just taking in what the other person is sharing with us. And then when it's our turn to share, it happens organically. I mean, that's what we strive to do here at the PAL Talks, to be fully present with each other. And I think that is just such a beautiful way to interact. But again, it starts with being fully present for ourselves. Before we can be fully present with someone else, we need to be fully present for ourselves. And the world doesn't teach us how to do that. The world teaches us to keep busy. The world teaches us to perform better. The world teaches us to just do more for validation. But what A Course in Miracles is teaching us is A Course in Miracles is teaching us to be fully present in the moment and to stay with ourselves. So again, it's a radically different way of approaching life because the only moment we have is now. I mean, I have this plaque on my wall to the side, which is why I'm looking to the side, and it says, allow yourself to be right where you are. I find that to be so peaceful, so serene. I have this mantra that I say, and I've said it off and on for years. What if everything is just perfect right here, right now? It helps me today. It helped me quit smoking because I found that whenever I craved, I mean, I smoked a pack a day for like 20 years. Whenever I craved a cigarette, I would say to myself, well, what if everything is just perfect right here, right now? And it would allow me to let go of the anxiety, and therefore I could refrain from smoking the cigarette. But it's just so miraculous when you can just and it has to do with trust too. I mean, trust is in the manual for teachers as the first characteristic. of a good teacher is trust. You need to trust God to provide in order to be at peace. And God is always providing. God is always taking care of us, you know? So to be at peace, it's important to accept the moment, be fully present in the moment, and to be able to trust that it's all good, that God is always there, and it's all good. And then you shared that story about your friend. And of course, I can totally relate to that story because I think that, you know, there are people in my life that I would like to save from A Course in Miracles perspective. And this is so key, and I have to remember what I know to be true when I'm put in the situation. Sacrifice is not of God. um, and whenever I feel like I need to save someone, that is my ego. That is my ego, and it is not coming from God. Because when we're plugged into our God socket, when we're coming from the truth of who we are, we allow other people to learn the lessons that their soul needs to learn without interfering. But if there's anything that we can do to support them in their journey, when we're listening to our higher guidance, we will be guided to do what needs to be done to support them. And that's very different than saving them, because when we're truly supporting someone, we will feel empowered as we support someone else. We will not feel depleted. We will feel empowered because it's coming from God. When we're coming from our ego, well, then we struggle. Then we stress. Then we try to, the ego tries to fix, the ego tries to control, and that is not of God. But if someone, and I'm learning this, I learn this day by day, because I have people in my own life that I see as struggling, and it's not my job to save them. But when I can, again, if I can keep my own energetic frequency high, then I can allow God to work through me and tell them what they need to know in order to grow. I mean, it's so different. It's so different to support someone on their spiritual journey. I mean, that's a miracle. And it really takes, what does it take? It takes discipline, it takes trust. I mean, this is really what A Course in Miracles is teaching us to do, to listen to our divine guidance, and again, it's not in our, God doesn't want us to save other people. He wants us to support other people on their journey. So I love that example, Karen, that you gave about your friend.
Thank you. And I love everything you just shared and can so relate to all of it. And so many things. You said so many things, so many good things. And I'm going to start from the back and then work my way up, because what you just said, allow the people to learn their lessons. And for me, now I learned that from A Course in Miracles too. I learned that from A Course in Miracles because by allowing people to learn their lessons, the Course says, what Jesus in the Course says, I will love you and honor you and maintain complete respect for what you made, but I will not uphold it unless it's true. So, in other words, he's telling us that's our role model to teach us that this is for everyone. Okay. So, that's the other thing. When it's of God, it's for all. It's just not for me and my friend and you, it's for everyone. So, when I do that, I'm trusting that, whatever this person's path is, whatever this person's um, and when you say the word struggle, the other thing that comes to me, and this is another thing I'm learning in the course, is that if I'm seeing someone struggling, it's because I'm still struggling. So I have to really remember that. I have to remember that projection makes perception. And when you said that everything is happening perfectly, so is this. So is this. That's what I'm learning here. And that is so what's the word I want to say? It's such a relief for me because knowing and trusting that everything's happening perfectly, even the seeming hardships, if you want to call them that, or the seeming struggles, if you want to call that, are perfect because they are teaching us the lessons that we came to learn. So I respect the power of decision, the power of the mind to choose. The Course says it's the greatest power we were given. Sacrifice is not of God, you said. Absolutely not. The ego wants to save, and the ego also has an urgency to save. Oh, I got to do something. I got to fix her. I mean, I would help this person like to the point where I would literally bang on their door, and they didn't want anything to do with me at the time. They didn't want to be bothered. They wanted to do their drugs, but I wanted to save them. I thought they were going to die in OD. And no, I'm banging on the door and I'm threatening, I'm going to call the police if you don't answer. So then the person opens up and tells me to get the F out of here, like literally get the F out of here. So I'm like, rude awakening, rude awakening to step back. But I had to go through that to learn to undo all of that. So I learned that. And then you said, going back to the beginning of what you said, that allow yourself to be right where you are. Allow yourself to be right where you are. And let me tell you, this has been a practice for me. My whole entire life, I had a problem with this. And I know you could probably relate to this. I was never happy where I was. I always wanted to be somewhere else. And you said you smoked. I smoked also, and I was also an alcoholic. I am a recovering alcoholic, but alcohol was my escape because I was never ever happy now, and I wanted the alcohol to make me happy. I wanted the drug to make me happy. I wanted the casino to make me happy. So it was all these things outside of me that I tried to fill myself up with to make me happy. I didn't know how to be I didn't know. I honest to God did not know. And even though I read spiritual books and I heard spiritual teachers before the course and I was in AA, I still did not know how to be happy within. It was always something without. So the course taught me that it's never without and it's never anything to do with the other person or anything outside of me. It's within. And so I'm so grateful for that because I really struggled. I can say the word struggle. I struggled with that for years. And that's something that I don't struggle with anymore because I'm very clear on it's only my decision to be happy that's going to make me happy. It never has anything to do with what someone else does or what someone else doesn't do, or what I have or what I don't have or what I think I need. And my biggest classroom right now is my physical condition. Okay. Because like I think about you all the time and I admire you so much for working out. You talked about, cycling on the bike and, running every day and all that stuff. I could never run because I've had so many knee surgeries, but I used to walk a lot. And right now I'm very restricted with what I can do. And it's frustrating. And it is like, I want to be able to walk. I want to be able to go out. I want to be able to do this. But this is teaching me to learn to, everything is perfect right now. This is happening right now to teach me to go within, to teach me to recognize that it is not my body that is upsetting me. It is not that I can't walk that is not upsetting me as much as it seems that way. And lesson 17 comes to mind that, it is never, it is always the thought that comes first, despite the temptation to believe that it's the other way around. So I tend to believe that it's my body that is upsetting me, but the practice and the discipline, you talked about the trust, it's practice, it's discipline, it's trust, and recognizing I am never upset for the reason I think. And today's lesson, I am upset because I see something that is not there. I'm, 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 I'm I think I'm upset So this is good. I mean, this is really good. Thank you so much for inviting me today because it's very therapeutic for me to talk about these things and hear these positive things that you're talking about and all these points. And you talked about listening. Listening, there's a quote that comes to mind, and I might be paraphrasing, but I think I'm correct. It says that listening is also quiet. That's very quiet for me. Listening is a form of meditation. It's a very quiet time. It's leaving that space. It's leaving that space for the other person. But the quote says, listening is the loudest form of kindness. So it's very quiet, but it's the loudest form of kindness because it's the kindest thing you can do for someone is listen to them. So I appreciate you saying that about listening. I think it's so important. And that's another thing I had to learn to do. And I'm very grateful for that. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the first thing I wrote down, Karen, was the first thing you said, which I think is very wise and very interesting. And it's something I needed to hear. You said, when I see someone else struggling, it's because I'm still struggling. And I think that's really, really interesting because projection makes perception. When we're looking at someone through Christ's vision, we see the beauty in that person. When we look at someone, I guess, with an egoic influence, we'll see the struggle. So that's very, very interesting. I remember a example of that. I was driving down the road with a friend of mine who was a Course in Miracles student, and she saw a gentleman on crutches, and he was really hobbling on his way to the bus stop. And she said, "Oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for that man. Look how hard it is for him to walk." And at the time, to use my expression, I was plugged into my God socket, and I said, well, that is not of Christ. Christ does not feel sorry for that man. He just sees past the external to the beauty within his soul. And I truly believe that when we're seeing someone's truth, we're seeing through the hardships that they might appear to be experiencing, and we see the beauty within. And by refraining from sympathy of any kind, that's how we're able to elevate them. Because nobody wants to be feeling us to feel sorry for them. Not really. Maybe their ego does, but not their true self. So when we can see past the appearances of external struggles and we can see the Christ-like beauty, that's how we can elevate them. And that's what Jesus Christ did when he was alive in body form, I believe. I mean, what he did is he saw through their illness and disease to the beauty within them, to the Christ-like consciousness within them. And because he was so clear about their health, they were able to heal themselves. He gave them the power to heal themselves by the vision that he held for them. And that's beautiful. And that is what Jesus is helping us do through his teachings in A Course in Miracles, because sacrifice is not of God and sympathy is not of God. And I think my own father, my dad, in this earthly classroom was the perfect teacher for me for this particular lesson. Because growing up, he loved to feel sorry for me. I mean, that's what he loved to do. So he didn't intentionally mean to hurt me, but he was unconscious in a lot of ways about what he was projecting onto me. And I can remember examples from later in life of him projecting sympathy onto me when I was a young adult, I guess in my 30s. I can remember visiting him at home, and I would tell him about my life in New York City, and how I worked at a watch store on the weekends, and I did other things during the week, and there was a lot of excitement. And then my dad, instead of feeling happy for me, he would say, "Oh, poor Susan, you must be so tired working 7 days a week." I mean, like, what? But well, but that was his famous expression. "Oh, poor Susan," and I think really it made him feel better about himself that he could, put me down. And again, it wasn't intentional. He just didn't know any better. He was like an emotional child. But that's where I learned how destructive sympathy is. So I try to remember that, I try to remember that all the time, that, when I pass by anyone, maybe as an example, every morning I pass by a man who appears to be homeless, standing on the rotary, asking me for some money, and whether I choose to give him money or not, I make a conscious decision to not feel sorry for him, because that's not of God. I mean, he's playing out the lesson that his soul needs to learn. And if he wants to play out the part of a homeless man, if that's something that he needs to learn, well, it's not my responsibility to fix him or to feel sorry for him. My goal as a Course in Miracles student, my job as a Course in Miracles student, is to bless him. That's what I can do. And if I give him money, well, I thank him for accepting my money. And if I don't, I just bless him, and I love him. And that's my job as a Course in Miracles student, as a Course in Miracles teacher. And when I can stick to love and release anything that's fear-based, it's just so empowering. There's this one other little example I remembered, again, from the gym. Everything seems to happen at the gym. But I was doing some weight training today, and I hope I'm going to say this, relay this example clearly, because I noticed this man behind me, and he had said something to me a few weeks ago that I found to be very irritating, and so all of a sudden, looking at him sparked irritation within me. He basically came over to me a few weeks ago and told me that I shouldn't be sipping on 5-hour energy drink when I was working, because that was bad for my system, which, maybe he was right. However, it really wasn't his place to tell me what to do, is how I felt. I was triggered by that. So today I was like, again, I was trying not to judge, but in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, that's that irritating man who's always telling people what to do. And then I kind of prayed about it, because I knew it was coming from my ego. And then I heard him say something to another member of the gym. And it was a compliment about this other member of the gym, his wife getting something at Costco. I don't know if this makes sense, but I realized that all he was doing was making conversation, because he wanted to connect with that person. And then I started thinking, maybe he made that irritating comment to me, or that comment that I took as irritating, because he just wanted to talk to me. He didn't want to irritate me. He just wanted to reach out to me. And it just kind of changed my whole perspective. And I realized that whenever we judge, we're coming from the ego, and it's going to bring our vibratory frequency down, and we're going to feel bad. Whenever we can love despite appearances, it's going to bring our energy up, and we're going to feel good. But all I know from this, again, I don't know if I was clear in that communication of the story, but something in me shifted from judge to love, and I just felt uplifted. So it's about releasing judgment whenever possible, and loving the other person, because that's all anyone wants. They want love always. Like, the truth is so simple. Love, that's the truth. It's not easy because it's not what the world teaches, but it's very simple. Right, Karen?
Yes, beautiful examples. And also what I'm hearing too is, you know, we take things personally. When someone says something to us and it offends us because we feel like, well, they shouldn't tell me what to do, or who does he think he is, or that is so irritating. I'm putting meaning on it, number one, and I'm taking it personally. And that's what I've been noticing too, noticing when I take something personally, and that it never has anything really to do with, I mean, it's like you said, he was just making conversation. And forgive is to forgive for me is remembering to be present, because when I'm being present, I'm in the holy instant. And the holy instant, there is no past. So we don't worry, we don't think about that past irritation. It's right here, right now. So we bring the past into the present, as today's lesson said, I am upset because I see what is not there. I'm seeing what is not there. I'm making this up. It's like it's so clear to me now what I do and when I do it. So I love that example, because the example really shows us that, well, actually, I'm going to read it because it's one of my favorite quotes on the Holy Instant. He tells us in chapter 15, section 5, in the very first paragraph, the Holy Instant is the Holy Spirit's most useful learning device for teaching you love's meaning, for its purpose is to suspend judgment entirely. So when you're in that present moment and you're being present, we're suspending judgment entirely, meaning that it's a brand new day. It's the same person, but it's a different day. So I'm not bringing that past into the present. It's forgiven. I already forgave it because it's over, it's done. And when I don't forgive it, I'm holding on to it, and I'm bringing the past into the present, which we all do. We all do it. And I did it my whole entire life. But now I'm conscious of it, and I see it and I notice it now. So it's never that other person, which is so helpful. And we can't love our brother if we judge him. And we both know that. And to me, blessing him is honoring him. I'm blessing him, I'm honoring him, that, everything is a lesson here. Everything is, what am I to learn here? And for me, it's learning not to take things personally, and actually believing that this guy is the cause of my upset. It's my decision. It's my decision, just like we talked about earlier. It's always a decision. And the other thing you said about your dad, it touched me, because your dad seems like a sweet soul, like a really sweet man, just by your talking about him. And he loved you so much. And that was his way of showing you love. That's how I look at it. I look at your dad as, I don't know what his childhood was. I don't know how his parents were to him, but I think he wanted to protect you, and he loved you so much. So he just, that was his way of showing love for you. And I don't think it was anything, like you said, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't malicious. It was his way of loving you. And for him to say, poor Susan, it was just like he didn't want to see you go. To him, he saw, like, he didn't want to see anything you overwhelmed in any way. He just wanted to see, you have just no problems, and maybe not have to work so hard, and maybe he felt guilty about something on his own. I mean, I'm just going wherever with this, but I mean, the bottom line is, it was his way. My opinion is, it's his way of showing love, because my father was very a very, I'm going to say, authoritative person. And he was a strong discipliner. And, I don't think that he meant harm, even though he did harm in a lot of ways. I don't think he meant to harm. I think it was because he loved me so much and my sisters that he just wanted to protect us and really didn't know any other way. He just didn't know any other way until we got older. And then when we were adults, we could talk as adults and things started to change. But when we were children and especially teenagers, I don't think he knew any better. And I think it's their way of showing love because everything is either love or a call for love, right? And then the story about the guy with the on the crutches, I love because this is practicing Christ's vision, as you said, practicing seeing beyond appearances, seeing beyond the body, and seeing everything as perfect. Like this is his classroom, and to feel sorry for him is making him feel worse. By seeing beyond that, we're seeing past that. I'm going to give you a quick story that touched me to no end. I was a young person at this time. My daughter's father and I, this was before we had our child. We were like maybe 17, 16, and a friend of ours got into a really bad car accident. And when I say really bad, I mean, when we went to visit him in the hospital, he was incapable of talking. He had so much brain damage that he couldn't talk. I was only like 16. And I was devastated to see him like this. And the only way he could communicate with us was with this little toy that he could press letters. It was like a children's toy, and he could press the letters to, have a sentence to form a sentence. Well, my daughter's father was my teacher that day. He went in there because he loved this was one of his best friends. He loved this guy so much. He went in there, didn't see any of that. I was like, I couldn't even talk. To tell you the truth, I didn't know what to say. I kind of just was there, but I was so in shock of my friend. Like I couldn't believe it. And I didn't have a lot of experience in the world, to know how to deal with this. And he looked at him. He said, you know what he said to him? The first thing he said to him, he's like, you really did it this time, like you really did it because he was drinking and driving. And that's what we did back then. We drank, we drove, and there was no laws back then. He said, you really did it this time. And I was like, it lightened the whole room up. It lightened the whole room up. He saw beyond all of that. And I was so grateful that he broke the ice like that. So I was able to smile. I was able to lighten up. I really still didn't know what to say. I just smiled and, I said hello, but I did not know what to say because I was agonizing over this inside. I just wasn't able to get past that, seeing him like that. But he did help by seeing past it, seeing beyond the body. And that's what we need. And that's what he needed. So it's for everyone. It helps everyone by keeping. And I'm going to give another example. Lynn Johnson just said something recently to me that was so helpful because of what I was going through physically. And I was really I went through like a little depression, and it was pretty hard. And, Lynn said to me, she said, Karen, and this is something your father would probably say to you in a different way. Your father would probably say, if I could take this away from you, I would, right? All our parents want to take it. If I could take this pain away from you, I would. Well, Lynn said to me, Karen, if I could take this away from you, I wouldn't. I wouldn't take it away from you because this is what you need right now to learn the lessons that you're here to learn. And I appreciated when she said that so much because she was right on. Don't take this away from me. Don't feel sorry for me. I don't want, like you said, nobody wants anyone to feel sorry for them. Just love them. So you said so many good things I could relate to, and it's just being like Jesus is seeing beyond appearances. He healed the leper by seeing past what everyone else saw. He healed the madman who was crazy in his mind and just babbling like all this crazy stuff. People were scared of him. And Jesus saw beyond all of it and healed him and saw only the truth. And because I believe Jesus saw the truth, he was able to see the truth too. So that's how he was healed because we're showing each other, we're a reflection of each other. So that was really perfect, everything you shared. So thank you.
Oh, you too, Karen. That was perfect. Everything that you shared. I love, I love what your the father of your daughter, uh, I guess your partner, what he said to the man who had a drinking and driving accident. That's very funny, very humorous. I think jokes heal and laughter is of God. I mean, as I quote so frequently, the line in A Course in Miracles says the separation occurred when the Son of God forgot to laugh. I mean, jokes are so healing. They really are. So I love that line. And I also love what Lynn Johnson said, you know, instead of, oh, I'm so sorry you have to go through that. So if I could take this away, I would. Lynn Johnson turned it around to if I could take this away, I would not. That is very healing as well. Because if somebody reflects that back to us, it allows us to fully accept what's going on in our lives, and that's how we can grow and that's how we can learn from it. Because the truth is, as I always say in my little affirmation there, what if everything is just perfect right here, right now? Everything is just perfect right here, right now. And we're learning exactly what we are supposed to be learning. I mean, Carl Jung said, what we resist persists. So to resist something is definitely of the ego, and it causes anxiety, it causes stress. It's just a horrible feeling to resist our circumstances, but to accept our circumstances fully, that is of God. That is the Holy Spirit. And you can feel your whole energetic system just feel peace when you accept everything exactly as it is. It's hard to even describe in words how calming that is, just to accept life circumstances exactly as it is. Um, so I was listening to, I guess, changing the subject just a little bit. Prior to our talk today, I was listening to Dr. Gabor Mate. He is a or a doctor, I should say. He was on a podcast with another gentleman, Jay Shetty, who I've listened to before also. Jay Shetty, I believe, studies Buddhism. He's a Buddhist. He was a Buddhist monk. And Dr. Gabor Mate, he is a Course in Miracles student because I've heard him refer to Course in Miracles frequently in his talk. So I know he's a very, very spiritual, wise man. And what he talks about is he talks about healing trauma, and what that goes to, it goes to the triggers that we experience in life. I mean, A Course in Miracles in a way is teaching us to not take things personally. So if something appears to upset us, it's really not about the other person. It's about something within us that needs to be healed, and that is not of God, but it's part of the cleansing process. It's part of, as A Course in Miracles would phrase it, bringing the darkness to the light in order to clear our channels and grow closer to God. So I'm just so fascinated by this subject because I so badly want to heal, and I don't want to do the spiritual bypassing. I don't want to just pretend that everything is perfect when there are still pain points in my unconscious mind that need to be healed. So I really love listening to how to release trauma, not because I want to stay in the darkness, but because I want to know what's down there in my unconscious mind, because I am still getting triggered. Every day I continue to get triggered. I got triggered by 3 people today. And I feel so, centered right now, but I got triggered by 3 people today, like really triggered. I was like calling my husband, can you believe that he did this? And can you believe that she said this? And my husband was kind of talking me through it. But I do consider myself a good Course in Miracles student, and a dedicated Course in Miracles student, and a Course in Miracles student that believes everything in A Course in Miracles, that joy is my destiny. And when I am joyful, I'm able to extend God's love, and I am able to heal, and God wants me to be happy. I believe all that, like totally and completely and unconditionally, but I continue to get triggered. So I guess, for me, when these triggers arise, it's to I believe practice acceptance of the uncomfort that comes up, and and I believe that's how to release the triggers. What do you think? Any thoughts on triggers?
Oh, big time trauma, big time. First of all, thank you for sharing this. I never heard of the Dr. Matei or
Yeah,
Jake.
Gabor Mate.
Okay, thank you. But healing trauma, I think is very huge for me. And I'm sure you could also relate, because I think trauma for me has been, I've had a lot of like physical abuse in my life, in relationships, and even my father was physically abusive. So it started with my father, then it was in relationships. And as a young woman, I look back now and see I chose men like my father, thinking I could change them, thinking I could never change my father, but now I'm going to fix this guy, never works. But anyway, trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, car accidents, there's so much trauma that I noticed, and I came to this conclusion that that's where all my anger issues came from, was all this locked up trauma that was coming out in anger because this trauma wasn't healed. So how to release trauma? Now I have to say, I am so grateful and appreciative that you shared your triggers, okay? Because I feel that we are here to be honest. And the only way we can heal is to be honest. Now, yeah, yes, do we want peace, love, and joy all the time? Of course we do. But let's be practical and let's be real. As long as I'm here in physical form, there's going to still be triggers, and I still have forgiveness work to do, or I wouldn't be here, right? So these triggers, I think, are so important, because I use the term bliss ninny that Ken used to use all the time. Don't be a bliss ninny. Don't be a bliss, and I'm not talking to you. I'm saying in general, don't be a bliss ninny and say, oh, someone can trigger you, say, oh no, it's light, peace, and joy, and I'm going to see just love where I call for love, when inside you're raging. That's a bliss ninny, and that is not healing trauma. That is not being your human. That's dehumanizing yourself. So we have to look at our humanness and respect it. I respect my humanness. I respect what I go through. I share very openly about what I go through, and I am not ashamed. I think it's very healing. I think everyone needs to know that this is not easy. Sometimes this is really not easy. So Keith Kavanaugh says spiritual bypassing is not being present with what is coming up to heal. So that's spiritual bypassing. I don't want to look. I don't want to look at it. I'd rather blame this person for triggering me. It's his fault. Look what he did. That's why I'm upset. When I am never upset for the reason I think. And this is my opportunity for forgiveness. And look at what's really bothering me within. What about myself is triggering this? Like we talked earlier about, seeing someone suffering. If I'm seeing them suffer, it's because I'm still suffering. So it's the perfect opportunity. And I love when people share what they're going through because I think it's so important to hear. Yeah, you got triggered 3 times a day. Damn it, it's hard sometimes. Let's look at that. So forgiveness looks, waits, and judges not. So what do? We look at it, but we don't judge ourselves for it. We don't judge ourselves for being triggered. We're gentle with ourselves. We love ourselves. We're like Jesus. Jesus would be gentle, loving, and kind with us and look at it, and he would laugh at us like you talked about. He would laugh and say, you know, you made a mistake. No big deal. And let's look at this together so we can shine it away together. He says, together we are invincible. So thank you for sharing those 3 triggers because I think it's so important to be honest and share that, yeah, I'm still having a hard time here. Yeah.
I wrote down what you said. I love what Keith Kavanaugh says, spiritual bypassing, not being present with what is coming up to heal. I think that is really brilliant. It's when we pretend that everything is perfect when there are wounds that need to be owned. That is not of God. That's really how I feel. That is not of God. I know one particular individual who is a strong born again Christian, and she is always happy, very happy, like over the top happy. But it is so obvious whenever you get close to her that she is just denying reality, because that is not authentic. It's important to be authentic. It is important to keep it real. And someone that is over the top happy or always denying reality is certainly not someone that I feel comfortable about. And we can also sense when people are not being authentic. We can sense when people are not allowing themselves to be vulnerable. And that's actually something else I remember from this podcast with Dr. Gabor Mate. He said today, I listened to it, that vulnerability is essential for healing to occur. And people that have wounds from their childhood that they have not dealt with, many of them, and myself included, will kind of shut down emotionally and not allow themselves to be vulnerable in relationships. But the only way we can heal is by opening up and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable by being true, by being vulnerable. I guess we risk being hurt. I guess that's a risk that we take. But that's also the only way that true healing can occur, by opening up and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. But I even want to take that statement a step further. And this is something that just came to me as I was kind of repeating what I heard Dr. Mate say, that when I truly open myself up, when I truly allow myself to love my brother, another person, I can't really get hurt, because love has no pain. True love has no pain associated with it. So if I can open myself up to truly love another person, whether that be a romantic relationship or a platonic relationship, I cannot get hurt. I mean, think of Jesus Christ as an example. He opened himself up and he loved totally and unconditionally and completely. And did everyone love him back? No. actually they went to the extreme example of ultimately crucifying him on the cross. But he couldn't be hurt because true love, can't be hurt. So when I'm truly loving, no matter what the response by the other individual, I can't be hurt. And that's what I need to remember, to love uh, whenever possible, right, Karen?
Yeah, and love yourself. Number one, love ourselves and be gentle with ourselves when we are triggered by something, and look at it gently with the Holy Spirit because it's okay. It's all perfect. And the other thing that came to me too is, and I know you must experience this as well and have experienced as well, when you are vulnerable with your husband or a close friend or someone very close to you, that intimacy only brings you closer. It only brings you closer, and then you feel more love. There's more love. That's what my experience is. When I'm vulnerable and I share my heart, and I'm really, it's like this, it's like touching souls. You're touching each other's soul, and you're just going to a place that you both know is just so beautiful and it just brings you closer. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I think it's very, very intimate to be vulnerable. I think being vulnerable is very, very intimate and beautiful, and I think sometimes even necessary. So thank you for sharing that. And it was so fun being with you today and so healing for me. I was like going through this caterpillar stage, and I finally felt like the caterpillar came through and the butterfly, is there. And I'm still like in that process. I'm still feeling like, a little resistance to some things, but this has helped me so much to just really feel like that butterfly is flying free. She's full grown now. So it really was very, very healing for me to be here today. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Karen. Yeah, I love today with you. Thank you so much for coming on with me. This is just wonderful, and I feel so much more empowered now, also. So, as A Course in Miracles says, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. The only thing that's real is love. And thank God for this platform, for Karen. I love you. Thank you for sharing with me here today. And I will now, and everyone else that's here or that will listen to this, and thank you, Lynn. And I will now return the microphone to Lynn.
All right. Thank you so much, Susan and Karen. What a wonderful combo you made. So I love it. I love how flexible and beautiful this community